pop as much. You don't pop,
Episode Fun 141 of Seddy Bimco. Continue your tour of the 50 nifty United States. This week, Minnesota.
I think it's episode 140.
I think... No, you're not.
140. Anyway.
Give your age-old question.
Every week we do an age-old question about revenge, George.
Yep, let's hear it.
So Dracula...
He
walked into the automotive repair shop because his car's...
I hope it was at night.
It was at night. I knew that.
Okay.
Because his car's cruise control was busted. And did he get revenge on the saleswoman who said, I've got just the thing for that. This new product called Crucifix. And Dracula, he fainted. Yeah. He ran away.
He didn't fly away.
Yes. Turned into a bat, flew away.
It's Seddy Bimco Part 2, The Revenge. The show where we create revenge sequels that nobody wanted.
We start at Seddy Bimco. It's Seddy Bimco. Part 2, The Revenge. I'm Tim Hamilton. He's George O'Connor. We create sequels to movies that didn't get them.
This week, our movie is Embrace of the Vampire.
Is it Embrace of or Embrace the Vampire? I think it's Embrace the Vampire. Of the Vampire. Okay.
Tim, actually, the full title, as I learned from watching this, is called The Nosferatu Diaries, Embrace of the Vampire.
Nice.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That sounds like a better movie than this was. Representing the great state of Minnesota.
George says I say that funny. And he also says I say footage wrong.
Oh, now he's correcting himself. Folks, there is 140 episodes prior to this of Seddy Bimco. Tim says footage, or as he says, footage, at least once an episode. Go back and listen to it. It's odd. It's an odd thing he does.
And apocalypse.
Yep.
Minnesota. Do we have facts?
We have facts.
We're diving forward.
All right, so here's the facts. 5.75 million people in Minnesota, which is less than Brooklyn, the borough that Tim and I both live in.
Yay.
No, more than Brooklyn, but less than the entirety of New York City. So,
bam.
Yes, suck on that, Minnesota. It is known as the land of 10,000 lakes, and my joke is each of those lakes has a maniac in it.
But is it the Land O'Lakes, George?
No, we don't know. This was something that came up in the previous Lost conversation. We were assuming maybe because, Land O'Lakes, that's the one where there was the Native American woman kneeling there and you could kind of bend it so her boobs were showing.
Oh, what?
Wait, you didn't know this?
I just thought on the butter package.
So you would take the package, right?
Yeah.
And she's kneeling there and she's wearing a short skirt and she's holding something. And and the way the painting was, there was little red spots on her knees where the inflection was happening. Whoa. And there was a way you would be able to fold it so it looked as if she was holding up her shirt and exposing her bosoms.
That's so nerdy, George, that you were doing that as a kid. Yeah. I told you,
no, I didn't do it as a kid, Tim. I did it as an adult.
As a child, I bought issues of She-Hulk and Drew traced her and left her clothes off. Left her ripped up clothes off. You're folding butter.
You did it. I did that with Conan, with Red Sonja. We've talked about this before. It's a recurring theme of how, as olds, and Tim and I are both olds, it was hard to see naked ladies.
It was.
And I wish we had this movie today.
Oh, no.
And back then, Embrace the Vampire, because we would have seen a lot of naked ladies.
But do you have any more facts, George, before we talk about...
Oh, do I, buddy? Yes. Okay. So this is my favorite fact, and this isn't even a joke, Tim. It is a Dakota word. Minnesota comes from the Dakota people. And the thing is, it either means clear blue water or cloudy water.
Wow.
The two words are Minnesota or Minnesota. So it's basically, that's a very hard language to speak.
Is cloudy water the Minnesota, like your miso soup? Is that where
No, I don't think there's any connection between miso soup. Basically, no, there's nothing. No.
Sorry.
You're reaching. But isn't that weird? It's it's one or the other. It's the opposite. It's my name means either alive or dead. It's they're opposites. Yeah. Speaking of blue, it is in an alternate universe, our vice president comes from there.
Yes.
And Minnesota is famously kind of an evergreen island of blue in the the rest of the Rust Belt could go any which way. Is that even the Rust Belt? I don't know. It's always this little blue thing just stuck up there, attached to Canada.
Yes.
And whenever people do their hypothetical Canada maps where, the coasts become part of Canada, the people in Minnesota are hey, don't forget about us, eh?
Hey, you impersonated a Canadian. Good
Did
one.
I?
That's a new one. It's a new one, eh?
Let's do the entire episode as Canadians and see
Okay.
what happens. Yeah, So the state bird is the common loon, which is just fun. The state flower is the pink and white lady's slipper, which is also the state shoe. Its capital is St. Paul. Its biggest city is Minneapolis. The two of them together is known as the Twin Cities.
That's
which I
where?
just realized is why they're called the Minneapolis. Is it the Minneapolis Twins?
Yep, they're famous. One
Yeah,
is
they are
big
famous.
and muscular, and the other one is small and round. And they made
Yep.
a movie.
Yeah, and the movie was called Empire
Twins.
Strikes Back. Oh,
Oh, Twins.
yeah.
Mary Tyler Moore took place in Minnesota. The show took place
I thought
there.
that took place in Brooklyn Heights.
No, Rhoda. After Rhoda had her spin-off show, and she moved back to
I
Brooklyn.
don't understand. Like, folks, there's not that much of an age difference really between Tim and I. But this dude, like, I was listening to the most recent episode that you broadcast. It was the one, Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Mm-hmm.
And you're, like, going off in this weird tirade about Groucho Marx films. I'm like, how old is
No.
this guy?
I was naming them.
Yeah. You went off and on. It was like 5 minutes of this, like, that entire episode was you talking about films that are older than we should know. Not that they're not good.
I'm a film buff.
Yeah.
There's some of us are out there.
Some of you. The Mall of America is in Bloomington,
Ooh,
Minnesota.
that giant one.
The biggest mall in the world, is my understanding. That's got to be depressing.
That's where Guardian from Alpha Flight, I think, was killed in the issue
Wait,
24 of Alpha Flight. When they had
Wait,
that big,
he did.
yeah, they had a big battle at the mall.
Why didn't he die in Canada? The dude has a Canadian flag
I
as his
know.
costume. That seems like egregious.
They were at
When
the big
Captain
mall.
America died, he got assassinated on the steps of like the
Two on spot.
Capitol
two on the
building?
spot. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
When,
see. Here's an interesting list.
When Uncle Ben died, he died in the street in his in a puddle.
Well,
Mud
there
in
was
his own
rice.
blood.
There was rice all around him.
Yeah, a wedding
Yeah.
had just happened. Oh, also your joke, yes. I
Yes.
get it.
Tim gets the joke, everybody. All right. List of famous Minnesotans: Bob Dylan, Judy Garland, who fake Kansasian. This one's exciting. Charles Schulz, creator of Peanuts.
Yes.
Famous flying Nazi Charles Lindbergh.
Ooh,
And welcome back to the show because we've mentioned you more than once, Laura Ingalls Wilder.
nice.
Yeah.
And did you see the band? I looked up to the band. I forgot. I've done that in the past.
Well, the most famous musician I could think of to come there is a little guy named Prince.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't find him. I just
Wait, are
looked
you
up
kidding me?
bands. I didn't. Yeah. The
He's
track.
like, he was a huge Minnesota dude.
I know. I forgot. But the band I found from Minnesota is the Trashmen, and we all know their song. You know their one-hit song.
No.
They're the ones that did "Bird, Bird, Bird." The bird is the word. Bird, bird, bird. Yes.
Wait, weirdly, Tim, I actually did kind of know that, and I think it's because I follow. These are some fellow old men you might know on Blue Sky. I follow all the guys from Mystery Science Theater, and I think they were talking about that. I didn't get the joke, and now I do in retrospect.
Now you do.
Yep. So Prince, he lives there in Paisley Park.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he doesn't live there, unfortunately. I can't believe we live in a world
I know.
where Prince is dead and certain other people who are,
Yep.
like I can mention, are still alive.
Yep.
As you know, I always like to wrap up my facts with a list of certain things. The first elevator built in Minnesota. Tim, I could not find this information because every time I looked it up, there was something else that happened that just, it hogged all the Google bandwidth.
Wow.
I'm going to read you the little excerpt I cut and pasted.
Okay.
The Peavey Hagelin experimental concrete grain elevator is the world's first known cylindrical concrete grain elevator. It was built from 1899 to 1900 in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And as an experiment to prove the design was viable. This thing is, there's so many
You
websites
saw a
and
picture of it?
articles. Yeah, it looks like a silo.
Oh, I see.
But it's like a big tourist thing now. But like it just, there's no room for other elevator news. There's like, no, you want to hear about
That's
this
it.
elevator. So I don't know when the normal of this, because 1899, we know that's pretty late.
That's late.
There was probably elevators. The first streetcar, horse-drawn in 1872 in Minneapolis, switched into electric in 1888, and as has always been the case, was discontinued in the 1950s so that Minneapolis could become an urban hellscape full of cars.
Yes.
Now this part, Tim,
Okay.
I always like to. The last thing I talk about is the cryptid.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
And at first, so, I found a list, and, like, it said Wendigo. We've already done a movie about Wendigos. I'm not going to talk about that. Bigfoots, come on, they're everywhere. Lake monsters, same.
Dracula's,
the vampires, and hugging vampires. I was so excited because there was something called the Purple Dwarf, and I was going to make a Prince joke. I can't tell you how many websites before me made the same joke, like every one. So I'm like, all right, we're not even talking about the Purple Dwarf. But the big thing, have you ever heard of the Minnesota Iceman, Tim?
No, I never have.
Okay. In the 60s and 70s, it was this, it was touring through Minnesota and surrounding states.
It was touring, this Iceman.
Yeah, well, it was the corpse of a hairy hominid frozen in a block of ice.
I saw him at our fair in the summer. Did you see him? Did he come to your town?
No.
I'm not kidding you. When I was a kid.
I believe you.
We paid money to see a frozen Sasquatch.
So was it positioned where it had one hand above its head and one hand laying on its belly?
That I don't remember. They made you crowd in. I looked in. I saw a big body. My friend's like, I see he's got a penis there. You see?
Yeah, there was a penis in it.
I saw that one then.
Okay, well, apparently there's more. So this is really interesting. Like, I recommend people look at Minnesota Iceman. It's hilarious because it was touring during all this time. It fooled like the world's most famous cryptozoologist at this time, this guy called Bernard Heuvelmans. He's like, yeah, it's real. There's actually like a fucking Yeti or something.
Because he goes,
and like
there's a penis there.
Well, that was actually part of the reason, Tim. He's like, if they made it fake, they wouldn't have had a little penis on it. He also claimed there was a spot where the ice would melted and he could smell putrefaction. And like, there is some weird stuff. Like, the one arm that's above its head has a break in it. It looks as if it had been shot in the back of the head and its eyeball came out on its face.
I wonder where it is today.
Well.
Oh, you know.
I'm glad you asked. So this thing was investigated. Guess who investigated this, Tim?
The Smithsonian.
You're fucking right. The Smithsonian investigated this in the 70s when they were trying to cross over the border back from Canada into here because they were worried this was actually a real body. And they decided it was a hoax. So the thing kind of disappeared for years. It was sold on eBay in 2013.
Ooh. Was it codenamed Bobby Drake?
It was called, I don't get that. Oh, the Iceman. Now I get it. Yeah. He was one of the X-Men. And just like the X-Men character, he runs around naked.
Right.
You could go, the actual original Minnesota Iceman is, you could see it in a Museum of the Weird in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
Yeah,
probably
cool, huh?
I can find a picture on the internet.
Of Bobby Drake Iceman?
Yes, that Iceman.
Yeah. He's the considerably more famous Iceman. All right.
Is that it?
That was a lot. That's it.
Hey, and we like to date our movies. That's how
You
far.
like to date our movies.
Many years before or after Star Wars it came out. This movie we're watching came out in 1995, 18 years after Star Wars. You stick around. At the end, this is all going to mean something. All these numbers.
Yes.
He was in love with a beautiful maiden. Until an evil twist of fate would change his life forever. He roams the darkness until he can find her again.
She's mine!
But
Directed by a woman, by the way, this movie. Anne Gorsard?
Yeah, the full title, as I mentioned before, it's the Nosferatu Diaries, Embrace of the Vampire. Anne Gorsard, she was French, so we're probably butchering it. She was the editor of Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I saw that. And The
I was pretty
Outsiders.
stunned. Whoa, I didn't see that.
Yep. Outsiders.
Tim, those are some real movies.
Yeah. Well, she was editor. It's hard
Yeah.
to make your own movie. Much harder.
It is. Well, I mean, this movie, I think visually does have quite a bit in common with some elements of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, this movie, yeah.
Especially all the boobs.
Can I say something about this? Our star?
Alyssa Milano?
Yes.
Yes, what?
She was on Who's the Boss from 1984 to 1992. She was on Melrose Place, 1997 to 98. She was in Charmed from 98 to 2006. And other little things since then.
She was in Commando. She was...
And in Commando?
Yeah. I followed her for years on Twitter.
Oh.
She has good politics.
Yes. And in a 1995 interview, by the way, 95% of this movie, she's topless, and I found an interview with her about it. Did you find the same one I did?
Yes, okay.
She explained her motivation for some explicit scenes in Embrace the Vampire. Mm-hmm. She said, I'm not going to say that I was manipulated into doing things that I didn't want to do. I did it because it was a woman director and felt protected.
Yeah.
So, still, it's a lot.
Which, I will say, folks, so this was my first time seeing this movie. How about you, Tim?
Oh, yeah, I never heard of it.
I have definitely, because I've definitely seen stills of this just by being a person, not even explicitly looking at this. Like,
totally by accident? Just accident?
I'm just like, oh my God, who's putting these naked photos of Alyssa Milano in front of me? I want to read a couple of trivia things from IMDb because I think they really capture the feel of this movie. First off, this first thing is the most insane thing I've ever heard.
Okay.
During filming, a crew member commented to Martin Kemp. Martin Kemp plays the vampire. Mm-hmm. What a great job the makeup department had done on the prosthetics that made it look like the veins in his forehead were bulging out. Kemp was confused as he was not wearing any prosthetic makeup.
Wow.
The bulging veins were actually the result of an undiagnosed brain tumor.
Oh, no.
What?
Oh.
He's still alive, so I guess he got it taken care of.
Oh, wow.
This next trivia question really will play into like what you just talked about. Tony Danza, who played Alyssa Milano's dad on Who's the Boss, was asked soon after this was released if he watched it and Milano's nude scenes. Danza smiled but didn't answer.
Oh, maybe I'll have a revenge story about that.
Maybe you will. Oh, I bet. Not all of this film, this is a confession, not all of this film was shot in Minnesota because at least one scene was shot in a nightclub on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood, it says. That's all that only appears in that doesn't appear anywhere in IMDb but in the weird trivia thing. And this really tells you what you need to know about the fans of this.
Uh-oh.
This is in the goof section. As Charlotte is sleepwalking in her first scene, and as Chris places her on the bed, you can clearly see she is wearing panties. Yet the next morning, when she wakes up and removes her nightie, she is wearing nothing else underneath.
Wow. So they're super fans of this movie.
Oh, Tim, I have a bit later that's going to make you like scared of humanity, but yes.
I do want to add,
yep,
since George and I both worked in the graphic novel comic world, that in 2013, I don't know if you saw this, Milano created the comic book series Hacktivist, which was written by two other guys and drawn by another guy.
I didn't know that at all.
Well, back in those days, there was a whole craze of producers saying to artists, here, draw this book. You're going to make money when it's a movie. You remember those days?
Yep.
Remember those days?
TV podcasts talk at you, not with you. Not the case for the podcast Taking It Down. With sharp, honed, southern insight, the unique three hosts scrutinize TV and streaming without Hollywood bluster or inside jokes. Every Tuesday morning, spoiler-free thoughts begin the episode, which can guide your decision on if a show or film is worth your evening. From there, Taking It Down shifts into analysis for those who love the details or are too busy for endless think pieces online. Taking It Down understands that being both busy and hardworking doesn't equate with being unthinking or unimaginative. From the Alabama Take Family podcast, find Taking It Down on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to hear your podcasts.
I'm going to spoil one thing.
Yep.
I'll tell you right now, this movie was boring.
Oh, God, it was.
Okay.
You would think, like, from what we're describing a movie, we're like, hey, Alyssa Milano is, like, yeah, she's very attractive. And, like, I think a lot of people, like, had her as their first crush. You think a movie that has many nude scenes that has this would be, like, more exciting to watch, but, like,
Yes.
yeah, I was like, boy, I just want to be, I don't know, doing something else. So, you know, I mentioned that the full title, this is the Nosferatu Diaries.
Yes.
It starts off where we just see a guy who you're left to assume is the vampire, and he's giving a voiceover narration. He is writing his diary, his Nosferatu diary. He's got like a plume, and he's like writing dip in ink, and he goes, "I was in love once when I was a man." And we see like this like slow motion horse with this lady who I thought was Alyssa Milano, but wasn't. And she rides up, and we're seeing, like, it looks like a romance cover, like, come to life. Like, the vampire guy has his shirt unbuttoned down to his navel, and they're in, like, this enchanted waterfall area, and she's wearing these long flowing white dresses, and they're in slow-mo and stuff. And they are laying there and kissing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim?
I can't remember if he bites her, but you're going to tell me.
No, because he's not a vampire.
That's what I was going to say. He's not a vampire yet.
Yeah.
This is basically the Dracula story.
It's so much the it's so much like the opening of Bram Stoker's Dracula, but without like the battle scene. It's just like It's like if Bram Stoker's Dracula was starring Fabio, and he says this thing: "My love, my virgin, the sadness I felt each time she left. If only knew that time would be the last." So she's a virgin, right?
Yeah.
He is in like this fucking coma after she leaves, just laying there like all. I'm like, why are you so tired, guy? You know. There's a thing that happens, folks. Like if there's kids listening, get out of the room. But there's this thing that happens after a man reaches climax when he has intercourse. He gets sleepy, right?
Yes.
This guy didn't. That's not what happened because he specifically calls her out as a virgin. So like after they like sit there on a rock next to a waterfall and do kissy face while she rides off on the horse, this guy goes into a coma, and then these like 3 naked women just kind of like come skulking up.
They're vampires.
And it's vampires, and it's very much like if you've ever seen Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Right,
It's very
yeah,
much
climbing all
it's
over
the
him.
bride. It's the Bride of Dracula scene where like Monica Bellucci and 2 other people like bite Keanu Reeves.
Except they have very slow camera movement over their naked bodies.
Yep. Oh yeah, a lot of close-ups of boobages, and they and they're all like kissing him, and he's just laying there like moaning in slow motion, and they put an ankh on him, which is like I think the biggest sign this was in the 90s. Like the ankhs are everywhere, and somehow people don't know what ankhs are, and they guess they're also evil.
Yes.
And one of the Draculas bites him on the neck, and one of the Draculas bites him on his nipple, which made me feel very uncomfortable. And one bites him someplace I couldn't tell. And it goes on and on and on. And I wrote, I feel like there's worse ways to become a vampire than having this way.
Yeah.
But he becomes a vampire, I guess.
Yep. He kind of wakes up years later, and Ray right away tells us, which he could have kept it. It would help if it was a mystery. And he's like, he'll fall into an eternal sleep unless he can, because Alyssa Milano is his love. Reincarnated, just like Dracula.
Just like Dracula.
She must love him in 3 days, or he'll fall into eternal sleep.
Which is like weird. So he's like
he's
you
already
really
undead.
can't. Yeah, you really can't tell when this weird thing in the past happened. She was a princess.
It was the 60s.
He was a nobleman. So it was could have.
It was like Woodstock.
It could have been the 1960s, honestly. But he's been a vampire for long enough that this woman originally died.
Yeah.
And then was reincarnated. So, like it's been decades at least, but I think it's hinted to be hundreds of years.
But he waited till the last 3 days before he was going to fall into eternal sleep, which is not explained.
And also, that's not explained, folks. We never learned this guy's name.
No.
And I thought it was me being sloppy watching this, but like I read about this, like no, he's just called the vampire. And really, up until this point, we haven't, like, even when he gets turned into a vampire, we never see him, like, wake up with red eyes or, like, sharp teeth. It's just like he's saying the pain of loneliness without her. And then
3 days.
This is crazy because Alyssa Milano, we see her and she's, like, asleep. And he, like...
invades her dreams, kind of.
You hear his voice, yeah. Like, you realize it's in the dreams because, like, 90% is... Not 90, but a lot of this movie takes place in dreams. He calls to her. And he's like, Charlotte, come to me. Yes. And, like, she's in this weird trance, and she, like, walks out of what looks like a fucking church.
Oh, it's all... Yeah.
It turns out it's the college that's filmed that, but I'm like, what? She was sleeping in a church? We don't know any of this yet, because she's not been a character who is awake or has had a line.
No.
She's walking up these rickety stairs into this dingy room that looks like the second apartment I ever had in Brooklyn, and, like, the vampire is there, and she's, like, in this weird trance, still not talking, still hasn't said a fucking line, and he's like, I can't reach out and take you. You need to love me. And he spends all this time like patting her hair and sniffing her neck.
In 3 days.
And then does he mention that? Yeah, I guess he mentions the 3 days.
3. This came up in the last movie I did, in the number 3. It's always there.
What?
3 days
it's
to
like,
rise
it's
from
like
the
the
dead.
rule of 3.
The 3 Stooges, 3 members of the police.
It's his list, everybody. What else, Tim?
Dogs who are missing one leg. You know, they have 3
tripods.
legs. Tripod.
Yeah.
3 movies.
The tripods from
trilogy.
War of the Worlds.
It wasn't a list. I just had my 3s.
Yep.
Yeah, War of the Worlds.
I think weren't you talking about 3 penises in Hell Comes to Frogtown?
Yep, that's why. That's why this started.
Kevin Cablasto, he's horribly deformed. That's how many Oreos he has to eat in a setting. What else, Jim?
That's it.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
3 members of the band Rush.
It's 3 weeks into I got nothing. Is that? Yeah, it is straight. Three members of Wilson Phillips.
Yep.
Yep. 3.
That's it. That's about it.
Yeah, that's it. Solid. Okay.
She gets.
He puts the Ankh on her,
Yeah, that's right.
and I just want to say, he has gross fingernails.
Oh yeah.
He has big white press-on nails, and like I was thinking about this, Tim. This is a little side question.
Side question.
Why is it like a part of established vampire lore that they always have gross fingernails? Because like vampires are supposed to be sexy, right?
They are supposed to be.
The whole thing about vampires, you're like, hey, that's like, if you're gonna like have to make out with one of the classic monsters, unless you're that weird lady from The Shape of Water, it's not gonna be the Gill Man. Nobody wants to kiss a werewolf. Nobody wants to kiss a Frankenstein. But like, it's always like the vampire is sexy, but they always have fucking gnarly, gross fingernails.
They're shape changers, so they should be able to change into.
Right? But then I was thinking, I'm like
That's
why
their giveaway.
Why do they always have gross nails? Like, they don't need to. It's like, if I was like into a person and I looked down and saw those nails, I'd be like, ugh. Because all
Yeah.
I think about is when they go to the bathroom, like, I'm like,
Oy.
stuff's getting caught under there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a mystery.
Yeah, it's a
You're
mystery.
stuck. Yeah, I'm stuck. Dumbfounded.
Yeah. And then, so he has gross fingernails. He puts the Ankh in her. I think we hear an answering machine.
I was going to say, they got answering machines in this movie, George.
You were so excited. You're like,
I
new
was.
technology.
When you had an answering machine, what was your witty message you left on it?
I think I would just scream and pretend to be murdered. No, I don't.
You don't remember?
I don't think I did the funny answering machine thing because I really would get annoyed when. So, folks,
I know.
in case you're like a young person, you used to call up you and make these recordings, be like, leave an answer at the beep, and people would like leave a message because we didn't have cell phones back then. And there would be people, and I bet Tim was one of them, who would do the thing where they go hello and like pretend to be there talking, and then you did that, right?
I didn't. That was someone else did that. I don't know who
Okay,
did that.
what was yours, Tim?
One time it was leave a good reason why I should call you back. So
that's not funny.
people didn't like that.
It's just, I mean, it's honestly, you were
And
just
then-
being a little bit more direct than usual.
But then I became, I was a freelancer like George, and I had to be polite. Couldn't be all goofy because editors call you.
Honestly, Tim, that's probably one of the biggest reasons because I was always like, what if I get my big break? I don't want to have a jerky message.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So
Yeah, her boyfriend calls and the vampire's like, I'd kill him, but that would break your heart. And then we cut outside.
she falls in the
and-
steps,
Yeah, she's outside all of a sudden.
and her
On
boyfriend.
the
That's where
steps.
she like slept walk, and her boyfriend finds her, and she's unresponsive, so he brings her to the bed and puts her to bed. I thought, shouldn't you call an ambulance?
Yeah.
She's unresponsive on steps.
Can we talk about this guy? This is
Oh, yeah.
Chris. Chris just looks like, I wrote he's a Chad looking motherfucker. Like, I did not like this guy.
No. Even though
Yeah.
he wasn't that bad, he was just always like, maybe we could have sex. And she's like, no. And he's like, yeah, okay, I
but-
understand. But maybe next
You're
week we'll
cutting a
have
little bit
sex."
ahead
I
to
know.
where she actually starts talking.
But that's why
Tim,
I'm annoyed with him.
I actually timed. So she appears in the movie the first time about 5 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until 14:38 that she actually says her first line. Because
wow.
it's like so long of her just being like sniffed on by this vampire and then being laying outside where like this fucking Chris just picks her up, puts her to bed and lays her fully. He goes to bed next to her like on
Right.
fully dressed on top of the covers, and she wakes up
Well,
and
he's-
she at 14:38 our star Alyssa Milano is like, "What are you doing here?"
Well, see, he's at least trustworthy, George. He's just a goofball.
We're supposed to say he's a good guy because yes, we learned this in rapid succession.
Because right away, we watch Alyssa Milano get naked because she's changed her clothes, but to her
Oh, my
boyfriend, she's
God,
like,
Tim.
don't look. Yeah, okay,
This is
what?
the part I have. This is the part I have to read you.
Okay.
So on IMDb, there's like the quotation section.
Yes.
I'm going to read you what exactly says in the quotation section. Like, there's going to be notes in here. This is what this maniac who recorded this on IMDb wrote. So yeah, he finds out that he found her outside. She's like, I thought it was a dream. She goes to change clothes. We learn that she was brought up in a nunnery.
Which never amounts to anything.
It's just that she's got churchy shit. So here,
Yeah.
Charlotte, changing clothes and standing naked. Her butt and the side of her breast are shown. She didn't have a choice. Chris notices Charlotte naked and smiles. Let's just put the knives in your father's back where they belong. Charlotte putting on a shirt. Her right breast and butt are visible. Yeah, that might be more appropriate. Chris, I can't help wishing you had inherited a little bit of his promiscuity. Charlotte buttoning up the shirt, still naked from the waist down with her butt visible. Yeah, but look where it got him. I wish I'd seen him at least once before he died. Yeah. What the fuck?
Someone wrote that?
Someone wrote that.
Wow.
Like, somebody took the time out of, like, their day to, like, that's not notable dialogue.
They've probably written a fan fiction novel by now about this whole movie.
Oh, man.
Their own sequel.
They're probably listening right now.
Yes,
because they so hello, person who wrote that. If you are the person who wrote that, could you please send to Seddy Bimco with an E at the end at gmail.com. Send us the entire script that you copied off of this movie with every indication of how much of her butt and boobs you could see in any one given scene.
We need
Thank
that.
you. We'll read it aloud. We'll make a special episode on our Patreon where we read it out.
Measure how much butt. Inches and centimeters.
Yeah. And all,
people in Europe need to know who listen to this.
They're like, yes, you keep saying inches. I don't know what that means. So yeah, then he's kind of he's like, why can't you would love me. I love you. Why can't we express our love? And she's like, pass me my cross, because she wears a cross. I just want to get that part in.
Yeah.
And then she walks him to his car, and I realize finally that, like, I guess this is a college, and maybe she's in the girls' dorm.
Yeah, I never knew if it was a boarding school or college, because she says right now, like, well, I'm 17.
That's right, Tim.
Yes.
Because which also I wrote that down. I wrote, ooh, in 3 days she's turning 18.
Three
Ew.
again. Three wise men. $3 that Mickey Rooney would always leave as a tip when eating at Long John Silver's.
I don't even get that. Just
3 legs on a tripod.
Silver's?
Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you said that one.
But yeah, he's like, okay, 3 days, you're 18.
Do we have to go to jail because we're watching a movie where we see the butt and right breast and boobs?
Was she 20 though? I don't know.
She was 22. She was
realize.
22. That was a bit of fact.
It's still creepy, but
this is all bad.
So yeah, I couldn't tell if it was college. They went to parties like college, but she's young, like it's a boarding school.
Oh, you know what? I think it was college because there is the scene later with the older girl, Sarah, who's like a junior or senior.
Oh, yeah.
It is college. Actually, yeah, I was 17 in college.
Okay, it can happen.
So, yeah, it can happen.
Because you were special.
And you were, you were like 58 in college?
Yes.
And it was the first college ever, right?
Right.
It was called Woolly Mammoth University. All right. Then we cut after she walks him to the car. We see her praying before bed, and she goes to sleep.
Yeah, right back to bed.
And right away. And the vampire is just nagging her, just like, again, talking in her head, which we've still not really seen him do anything vampire-y.
No.
I mean, I guess he appears in her dreams.
He's the most boring vampire.
He appears in a room this time, though, not just a voice. Yeah. He holds her cross in his hand, which I'm like, normally that makes he just disintegrates the cross. So, yeah, fuck you, cross. You don't do shit to this vampire. And then he puts the ankh in her hand, and it glows.
Ah, yeah.
He says, Charlotte, it's a beautiful name. He uses his gross nails to pull open her shirt. We see her boobs again.
Long time.
Just a long time of her just sitting there looking kind of dazed, and he's just like, I actually didn't write.
She just looks dazed for a while. He kisses her, and then she wakes up and he's gone. She's like, "What? What happened?"
Is he kissing her on the boobs? Is he kissing her on the... I don't remember.
You check that guy online. He'll let you know.
Hey, folks.
Looking back up.
Yeah, guy, right back to us. Here's the thing, folks. Sometimes there's scenes of people kissing her boobs. Sometimes there's people kissing her neck.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone ever kisses her on the mouth.
Nope. She might have a stunt person, although I don't know.
No, that's definitely her. She's...
So she's got a friend named Liza.
No. Oh, no, that's not her friend. That's her right. Well, she wakes up and throws the ankh.
Nicole, sorry. Yeah, she throws the ankh.
Yep. And then, she throws the ankh, and then he says,
Nicole.
we see a clock, and he says, each hour that passes weakens me more.
Yes.
2 days left. At this point, I just want to mention, I got an ad break, Tim. It was for a Viagra ad. I'm like, they know their audience. So. All right, so we meet the friends, Nicole and Eliza.
Well, Nicole's her friend. Liza's like, she's like that mean girl.
Yeah, Eliza seems like her friend in the first scene, and Eliza becomes progressively more and more horrendous to her as like in each
And
scene.
annoying.
Like, weren't they kind of friendly at first, and at the end they're like, she's like trying to murder her practically.
They're enemies, and we never know why, really.
Yeah.
'Cause
And a guy comes up who I thought was Dawson from Dawson's Creek, and I got so excited.
Right.
And it's
Liza,
not Dawson.
Liza just bugs her about being a prude. Like,
Yeah.
and
Eliza
Liza, she has a answering machine too. Answering machines are in this a lot because she accidentally recorded herself having sex on her
With the
answering
not
machine.
Dawson. Yeah.
Yeah. And she, that's right. She also says Dawson. She says, are they talking about him? Like, he tried to drop something in my drink once, and they're just laughing about it. Remember, she thinks he's cool.
If they did, that's actually some good foreshadowing.
Yeah, it is because she mentions it, but they think it's cool. She's like, that cool guy. He tried to put a drug in my drink.
Yeah, this movie's problematic. At some
so
point,
much.
this may sound like we're doing a kind of spotty job where stuff jumps around, but it really
need to.
does.
It's
'Cause,
just
like,
yeah, it's boring.
There's the scene where like the guy comes out of a room, and Eliza's like, every week she has a different model. What a slut.
Mm-hmm.
And then like we see this woman come out, and she kind of like drops her robe for a second and looks at them. And I didn't realize till later that's Sarah,
Oh,
the
okay.
photographer lady.
We're gonna meet. Yeah.
And she Liza calls her a slut, and Alyssa Milano, Charlotte, is like, you shouldn't call her, that's a mean word. And Liza's like, oh, the campus virgin is defending the campus nympho. It's like, okay, you're being an asshole.
She is more and more for no reason.
And she storms off, Charlotte, and Nicole, who is her real friend, goes into the room, and Charlotte's like, I can't find my cross. And Nicole finds her.
Oh,
Yeah?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know if I missed something.
Nicole finds the Ankh instead.
Oh, right.
Well, Nicole brings her to the party.
But because Nicole's like, you need to meet other guys, not think about
Yep.
Chris all the time.
Yeah.
And you know what Charlotte had to do to think about other guys, George? I just had to get this
it's a
in.
list.
She had to get her 1995 February issue of Playboy. Charlotte got Playgirl. Sorry. Okay.
Tim, I'm like, am I having an aneurysm here? Okay.
95 issue of Playgirl.
Folks, if you're keeping track at home, Tim has had a streak, I would say it's 100 episodes in a row, before even joining the show, where he mentions people finding Playboys. His favorite thing is to make up famous,
But this is Playgirl.
But this is Playgirl. This is new territory. Is this the Playgirl with Burt Reynolds?
No.
Star of previous Seddy Bimco film, Gator?
Sorry.
No?
Centerfold
damn
is Idaho Badger. His turn-ons.
Oh my God. What? I don't want to know what this man looks like.
His turn-ons are juggling fire sticks.
Mm-hmm.
His turn-offs are flammable ceiling tiles.
Yeah. Well,
What's he look?
fire stick.
What's he look for in a woman?
Inflammability.
Yes.
Okay.
And one who knows the difference between a chemical and a wood fire. That's
All right.
That's it.
Wow.
That's what she did. Then they go to a dance. Now she's all horny.
It's not a dance, it's a party. Before they go to the party, Nicole puts her Ankh on her. That's probably important.
Puts her Ankh on.
I wrote down this I loved because I wrote down like, man, this party sucks.
It does.
And like Charlotte walks in, sits in this weird chair. A guy comes right up to her and she's like, this seems like a cool party. And he goes, it sucks. I'm like, hey, I agree with the guy.
But he sucks too because she wants a drink and she says something carbonated. And he goes,
No, she says a soda. He goes, carbonation.
no, he says carbonation is cool. I wrote it down.
Is that what he said? That's Elmo, by the way. Is it Elmo or Milo?
Milo? Yeah, I don't know.
Should have wrote this down. 'Cause,
Milo. He's the only other guy of like consequence in this. He's friends with Liza, and he seems to
Yeah.
be mean with her if he needs to be, or nice to Miss Charlotte.
Well, so Eliza, who is the girl who's super mean to her, he seems to be almost like he's
Under
like
her
fuck buddies
control.
with her, but
Yes.
like she seems to control him in a weird way.
And he knows it's an ox around her neck, which that's
Yep.
out of character for that guy.
Well, it was the 90s. He probably
the
read
90s.
Sandman. Yeah.
Yes.
They just talk about Ankhs forever. And as I wrote, he explains what an Ankh is because she grew up in a convent.
And then they talk about Four Non-Blondes. Like, did you get that new
Yep.
album?
And she
It's
goes,
a cool
hey. Did they wear Ankhs? Is that why you mentioned that?
Well,
or
it's the
you're going
90s. 90s.
It is super 90s. I just want to mention this movie was very 90s looking too.
And he's like, well, I like Toad the Wet Sprocket better.
And she says, I'm more of a Hootie and the Blowfish
Yes.
person.
He's
They
like,
were
what?
90s,
You don't
right?
like the Dave Matthews Band?
She was.
Yeah.
And he said I liked the Dave Matthews Band until one day I was taking a tour of Chicago and they dumped their liquid waste on me. Yeah. Eliza comes over and is terrible to her. And then this movie does a thing a lot where I'm really not sure, like, are we seeing dreams or not? Like,
I
the
know.
Ankh glows blue, and suddenly Charlotte just gets up, leaves the party, walks up the stairs. Hey, the vampire's on the roof.
Yep, he's around.
And she's like, and he's there, and she's like, do I know you? It wasn't a dream. And she has, like, a cut on her finger, and they both take turns sucking blood from the cut in her finger.
The
they
only
talk more about
vampirish
Ankhs.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, he gets a little bit vampire-y later.
Yeah.
And then I wrote smooch, so I guess they kissed. Oh, yeah, because she's making out with him. And then Nicole walks in, the friend, and like Charlotte's there, just like she's got her arms around nothing, and she's doing like her mouth is going, making out of the air. I'm like, that's embarrassing.
Yes, Nicole finds her.
And this is where
wakes her
Nicole's
up.
maybe not a good friend.
Yeah.
This sucked.
It did.
So she brings her back to the party, introduces her to this like
Another
nozzle
guy.
named Sean.
Yeah.
Who we haven't seen before. And Sean is immediately like super rapey.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, you know you want it.
And Nicole says, here, go with him. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. And immediately he's like...
And immediately this guy's like, yeah, take off your clothes. Like being a super creep. And the vampire is suddenly, like, because up to this point I'm like, is he real? Is he here? Mm-hmm. He's in the lofters? That's not the word.
That's not how you say that word, George. Unless you're from Minnesota.
He's like, we should have mentioned, but he's got like a bit of an Irish accent, so he's like, hey, leave her alone, IT-tie. And he fucking reaches down, grabs this guy by the face, breaks his neck, and drinks his blood. I'm like, yeah. It's a vampire. And he goes, she must remain pure. And then, like, Nicole and her boy. Yeah, but this is so, like... They're in like a place where they store equipment for like sports, I guess.
I couldn't tell.
And like I think he kills the guy that Nicole was with.
Yeah.
It's kind of vague. And then he pushes her into like a big soccer goal net, and he bites her through the net. It looks so silly.
Yes.
Because like it's pushing his face weird, so he's like trying to be sexy and like so. But he kills Nicole. I'm like, oh, didn't see that. But I guess Nicole deserves to die because she did set up her roommate with like Captain Rapey.
Then Chris goes to a bar for a coffee.
No, before that we see him walking through the woods, and he sees Charlotte making out with the shirtless vampire, and he wakes up, and I wrote, this movie sucks. He calls Charlotte, they have a dumb conversation, then he goes to a bar, gets a coffee, and it took me a while to recognize that the guy in the bar, I'm like, is this the vampire?
Couldn't you tell by his Irish accent?
That's honestly how I was able to tell. And the vampire's like, you think you need to know and learn in life what you can get from those books, eh, me laddie? And he goes, you're a good-looking guy. And he's like, I'm not gay. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, is this the vampire? But it is, yeah.
Yeah. He puts doubts in his head, like, where is Charlotte all the time? You think she's really thinking about you? You think she's looking at the Playgirl magazine?
Yeah, I heard that episode, that one new Playgirl has, what is
Idaho
it, Angry
Badger.
Idaho Badger?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard she was looking at that. Then Charlotte...
I have dream sequence again written down.
No, he sees Charlotte riding a horse. The vampire...
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, there's dream sequences. I don't know.
The Charlotte and Chris, their relationship deteriorates because I will give this movie one little piece of credit. She just has to fall in love with this vampire, Charlotte. It's not the whole bite thing. So it's like a little different. It's boring, but...
Yeah, it's boring.
He's just like, he won't take her by force. She has to.
He wants her to love him.
Yeah, so.
Oh, and this is important because we see a bit where like Charlotte has a dream of Chris kissing Jennifer Tilly.
Yes.
And he says, I'm like, what's that? And then it's the future, as it turns out.
Oh, the future.
We got an ad break again.
The ghost of vampire's future.
So then we see Charlotte it's the next day because there's a clock again, so we're down to one day. Vampires one day.
Part 3, one more day because I skipped part 2.
Oh, you did the parts. Okay, cool. So Charlotte is wearing some very 90s clothes. She's wearing like shorts and like stockings.
Oh yeah,
like 90s George would have definitely been like, oh my god, I'm gonna ask her out and make such an awkward fumbling pass and then go home and like just wallow in sadness after she stared at me like a weirdo.
Yeah. This next part
woman
is the
comes
setup of all these the thing. What are these things called? Porno shorts.
Like this, a Cinemax type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they
kinda-
are, but
Yeah. So this is the woman that they
no, I mean
saw.
I don't
that,
know, but I've heard this is the setup. This whole next segment, as I'm trying to say, is like a porno film. It's the whole
Well,
plot.
Tim, much like Charlotte, you have remained pure.
I've remained pure.
Yeah.
I've heard about them.
So the woman that that Eliza had called the slut, the one who sleeps with a different model every night, this woman comes up, very, very beautiful woman. This movie is full of like very attractive people. We should just mention that, right?
Sure.
Except for fucking Chris, that guy's a knob. And
Sarah
so
wants to take her picture.
yeah, she's like, just starts taking photos of her. And like, I think, Tim, you went to art school. I went to art school. We all knew the person whose
Yes, first
personality
year
was they would
photo student. Naked
This woman-
photos.
Yeah, and there was their way of like, like, hey, I have a camera.
Yes.
So she's like, do you want to see my work? They
Mm-hmm.
go back to her room where she's a studio. There's all these nude photos on the wall, and Charlotte's like, they're so beautiful.
Yep.
And she goes to Charlotte, you're so beautiful. Again,
take
cementing
pictures.
this is the 90s, she offers her a clove cigarette.
I wrote that down, George.
Of course.
What was your
So
favorite
ni-
flavor?
I never. I actually was going to ask you, and did you smoke cloves? Because you look like a guy who smoked clove cigarette.
Well, I'm going to tell you my favorite flavors. Of course, George.
I didn't even know I thought the flavor was clove.
These are my top four flavors.
Let's hear him. Oh boy, let's hear him.
Cilantro Bali Danza. That was one of my favorite flavors.
Like Tony Danza.
Ruby Cilantro Milano. That's a
Okay. Oh, wait, wait, folks, before are you going to pull out knowledge of a third cast member of Who's the Boss?
Krakatoa Delirium Boss. That's all I got.
No, not Mona.
I don't know those characters. I really
know,
don't.
I know. Yeah. Jean Smart? Was she? No, she wasn't. So she starts smoking a clove cigarette. The model's just shooting her there. Undoes her shirt. We see Alyssa Milano boobs again.
Yeah,
So
loosen your shirt.
guy, write down the thing. Like, let us know the dialogue here and how much we see. Okay. The photographer takes down her hair. She starts undressing Alyssa Milano.
Yep.
I wrote actually here. She kisses her chest.
Yep.
And then eventually Charlotte just leaves and it's like awkward.
Yeah, Charlotte's like, oh, this is awkward. Buttons up and runs away.
Now, if you've been keeping track about the Magic 3, not only is 3 the day where the vampire has to make a love by, this is her birthday. So this 17-year-old you've been watching,
Yep.
this is her birthday. We cut to Chris at his house, and he's all clean. He's like, oh,
Yes.
boy, I'm going to denate, I'm going to deflower my
This
girlfriend.
place is a dump, and he's just like shoving things under the bed.
Yeah, like literally.
And his roommate's
And then-
like,
Oh, I didn't like his roommate,
Yeah.
Tim. This guy had poodle hair. Wanted to slap I wanted to go on the TV and slap him. And he's like saying, I don't know why you like that girl. She's got you whipped. He's like, I know, but we're gonna have all kids and stuff. It'd be great. But then she calls on the phone and she cancels because she needs to study.
She's like, I have to stay home alone. And he's like, well, okay. I think his roommate even says, man, you got blue balls.
Yeah, it does, I think.
So you know what he does
And-
that night?
Does he smash his penis flat with a hammer?
He looks for his April 1995 issue of Playboy.
Oh, he gets into Playboy, everybody. Who is this? Was this Precious Waters?
Centerfold is Angelica Bonney. Wrong
Wait,
issue,
say that-
George.
Say what's the last name?
Angelica Bonney.
Bonnie. Okay.
Her turn-ons are being a boss. Her turn-offs, wondering who the boss is.
Wait, is that the name of the character for Who's the Boss? Angelica Bonnie? Oh.
No. Best concert she's been to, Boston. Her favorite
Not
movie.
Not Bruce Springsteen, the boss.
Her favorite movie, The Town, which hadn't come out yet. Her favorite sports is basketball.
Why
Her
is it
favorite
Town?
food is Boston cream pie. Sexiest city in the world, Boston.
No,
Anyway.
that's definitely not sexy. That's Boston is a city.
Yeah,
I
I
like
know.
Boston, but that's not a sexy city.
What's she look for in a man? She likes guys from Bosnia. So there you go.
Her favorite music was the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
That's right.
Yeah,
They weren't around
Right.
yet, though.
they weren't. Oh. So Charlotte cancels it. Chris is sad, and this is interesting too because we know that the vampires hang around. He's like, she has to remain pure, and like when that other guy tries to like come after her, he like murders him, and like
Yeah, he's murdered a bunch of people. And nobody seems to notice these people missing.
which is funny, but like also like this woman Sarah like totally like was making out and kissing the boobs of Alyssa Milano, and he
Yeah.
doesn't step in here.
That's right. I didn't think of that.
And
it was
also-
daytime. Does he walk around in the daytime?
He absolutely has walked around the daytime until this point, yeah. And also, it's like, she cancels the plans, and the scene immediately before this is her having her like encounter with Sarah, where she seems kind of
Yeah.
into it, maybe. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what does this have to do anything with the vampire?
I know.
It's like you're right. Like it's like the director is like, what if we had some girls kissing for a bit?
I feel bad. Just for her being... It's a woman director, and I still think it's just like a man made this. I don't know.
Well, she is a French woman, so I think they have different attitudes about that.
Yeah, okay.
We're in class,
tried
and
to
Charlotte gets a
study-
D. Yeah,
Well, she had to study art history, George. Weren't you excited about that?
Tim, I actually was, because Charlotte gets a T in her test, and then Eliza's like, I thought you were the smart one, you fucking piece of shit, you fucking asshole, because Eliza
Yes.
in every scene is really just... Nicole's dead. Nobody's noticing this yet.
No.
So they're having, it's an art lecture, and I was excited because it's Botticelli. It was Venus and Mars.
Yeah.
And the
she saw-
vampire is
she
standing
was-
there in class wearing only a vest, like the biggest douche in the world.
That's right.
And there's these scenes where he keeps being like, he's like, you should marry me, you be with me, and fuck that Chris. And she'd be like, leave me alone. And everyone cut, and she's talking to herself. This happens 3 fucking times.
She said, I gotta go. These Warhol soup cans you're showing me are making me hungry. And she walks out.
And she walks out.
Yes.
She goes looking for Nicole, who of course we know is dead. She doesn't find her. She sees Sarah in the hallway, and she was like, hey, Sarah's like, I'm sorry, I was kissing your boobs.
Yes.
And she's like, no, let me see the photos later. And then
They're all cool with it.
They're all cool. And I thought this was a nice bit of continuity. They do show her studying, and she is I looked closely. She was studying other paintings by Botticelli. Then there was an ad break, and we come back, and she's suddenly Charlotte is tied naked to a bed.
That's right.
It's like spread eagled, but
And
she
Chris
has a
is
little.
playing pool with a lady at the bar, too, who is mysteriously keeping him there. By the way, I should mention that.
That's a
Remember?
little bit after,
Okay.
because there's this whole bit where like she's tied naked to a bed, Charlotte, and like there's a naked Chris there, and this actor is going to town on Alyssa Milano's nipples.
Yes.
I'm always kind of like weirded out. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, there was probably, you're on set, you have to do so. It's like maybe like be a little bit more, whatever. That's. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, like Sarah's there too, and she's going to town on her. And then the vampire comes right up the middle and just like full on mounts her, and then she wakes up. I'm like, oh.
Yep. Oh, that's right. Yes.
And Chris is there, and he's like, where's the cross I gave you?
Yep.
And they have a stupid fight about lying or something. And then Chris is at the bar playing pool with his dumb, stupid, long hair friend. And then Jennifer Tilly's there throwing herself at him.
Was that who it is?
Yeah, it's Jennifer. You didn't recognize the voice?
No.
Oh, yeah. The
But
bride
it's-
of Chucky.
And she's keeping him there, obviously. And Charlotte goes to a party.
Yep.
And
Which, I have to say, it's not just a party, Tim. It's like she goes to the exact same fucking party.
Same
again.
party. Everybody's
But
still
now
there.
now she's smoking cloves, and she is wearing
Yes.
a dress she took from Nicole's closet.
And they dose her drink. And that kid
Yeah.
who's like wishy-washy, he's just like, oh, well,
The
that,
kid Elmo or Milo, whatever
yeah,
his name was.
Eliza tells him, he goes, well, that wasn't nice, but he doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah,
He's a jerk.
I actually missed. I will be honest. I missed that she got dosed because I was
Oh.
like looking down.
Yeah, she
I thought
did.
because she drinks a glass of wine, which is new for her, and I thought maybe she's supposed to be drunk. But then I guess it's. I'm like, oh, this is.
Yeah.
She's like hallucinating. But then this movie, like,
she sees an
it
orgy.
keeps. Yeah, it becomes an
When
orgy.
she gets
and,
drugged,
like,
it's like an orgy going on. It's like Burning Man, except less vampires. Yeah. Take that, Burning Man.
Take that, Burning Man. And the vampire's there, and so is Sarah, and Nicole's there, and the vampire eats Eliza and Nicole and this stuff, and Charlotte leaves the party again.
Yep.
And I wrote, the vampire has a dumb sword tattoo on his chest and roars.
I missed that.
Yeah, well, it's important because I actually realized something which I don't know if you realize. So then we cut back to Chris and Jennifer Tilly in the bar, and they leave the bar, and it's the exact same scene we saw before when the vampire was putting doubt in her mind, where they're
Yes.
on the steps, and she pulls back, and she's I don't know if she's topless or if like you just see her cleavage, but she has the same stupid sword tattoo on her chest as the vampire,
Oh, I see.
and I realized she is the vampire.
Who?
Jennifer Tilly, the woman that Chris is making out with the bar.
Oh, sorry. Yes. She
is the vampire.
yes,
Like
shape
that's
changer.
one of his powers. He can become like another person, like a lady.
So why didn't he just shape-shift into a student? Much
Why
more
didn't-
easier. than
Well, she
hang out
was a
with-
student.
What I'm saying is, and hang out with Alyssa Milano. Be like, hey, I'm a new student. I just came from Transylvania, and I'm young and hot. You could be anybody, right?
I mean, I don't know. I wrote, Sarah visits Charlotte in her room again. Oh, yeah. And, like, because now Charlotte's all being like, now I'm a bad girl. My lipstick is dark red.
Yes.
And I'm wearing a red dress and I'm sexy. And Sarah comes to the room and they're making out in front of a cross. And, like, I guess Charlotte bites her and she runs out of the room.
Yeah.
It's not like bites her like a vampire, like bites her tooth or something. She's like, ow, you jerk.
Yeah.
And then Milo. Oh, I wrote his name. It is Milo. Milo, the Ankh guy, comes in to check on Charlotte, and they kiss for a second. And Eliza shows up and slaps
Oh, so much just drama.
her. And Charlotte, this is pretty good. Charlotte kicks her into a wall. I'm like, oh, it was a good kick.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. And then
she goes inside her room, and then the vampire shows up and grabs Eliza and keeps banging her head on the door.
that was gruesome until it's blood. And then he licks
until
the blood off
comes
the
out,
door.
and then he
Yeah.
licks the blood. And didn't it look like he was grossed out by doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Like the actor. Like it's a weird shot. Like he's licking. It looks so awkward. And then he like turns his face to the side, and like I think this is maybe the first time we see his fangs, but he's like, it looks like he's almost dry heaving.
Maybe he had a stunt tongue. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. You know, Tim, in your life, have you ever licked a door?
Probably. Oh, yeah. Very often.
What do they taste like? Do doors taste bad?
Like-
I'm going to say this guy's never licked the door.
Close to that
I'm
battery
confident I've never licked
taste.
the door.
You ever lick a battery?
Yeah.
Yep.
When I was in college, instead of having weird parties where vampires were coming, I remember one time sitting there at the table with my roommate and our friend, and there was like one of those 9-volt batteries there.
Oh, no.
And they were having a contest to see who could keep their tongue stuck to the battery the longest.
Ooh.
And I remember there was just drool pouring out of both their
What?
mouths, and it was disgusting. I did not. I was like,
Who won?
I don't need to.
What's he doing today? Or she?
It was too heat. I don't think. I
no,
think
you
you
can't
knew
tell
there
me.
was no women involved in there.
What?
They stuck their tongues.
If you meet a woman
on
who'll
the-
taste a battery, you keep that woman.
Not okay. Even one who tastes about it, so they kept it there for like a minute. It was disgusting. Yeah. Yeah. So Eliza's dead, I guess, and then like Charlotte's lying in bed, and like 15 minutes later, 15 minutes until she's 18.
And you'd think, you'd think this movie would have a scene where stupid Chris would be like, bite marks, nighttime. I think there's a vampire. I should go to the library and look up how to kill a vampire. I need steaks and garlic.
there's really
they
no
never do
biting.
They don't do anything like that. He never figures it out. Well, at the very end, but he
bites that one
That
guy.
never happens.
Oh, he bites Nicole too. You're right.
you never get that scene where somebody's like, I think it's vampire.
Yeah.
We need
So-
steaks.
Yeah, we see the clock that they keep showing. It's a big clock on campus. It's 15 minutes until she turns 18. 15 minutes until the vampire falls asleep forever.
Yep.
The ankh around her chest glows blue. We see the vampire laying on the floor in his dirty room. We have a brief flashback of him getting turned. I don't know, Charlotte's walking up the steps. Chris drives up. He walks in on the vampire. So apparently the whole time the vampire's been living in the attic of this school.
I guess.
And they go in there, and so
Your
it's
only
like this,
special effect. He shoots electricity at Chris, just like
Well, I wrote
the
he
Emperor.
He gets like gas painted. Force lightning's Chris. He shoots him, and he goes, "Will you die for her?" And then the bell tolls, so she's legal, and the vampire goes to
jeez.
bite her. And as he goes to bite her, she goes, "Chris,"
Right.
and the vampire goes, "Don't think of him." But then the vampire's sad.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You can't take his love to eternity." And the vampire takes the ankh back, and he goes, "Once more, I let you go."
Wow.
And then Charlotte wakes up, and inspired by her friend, I'm like, she's clearly not wearing panties there. She has this thing.
And her and Chris live happily ever after.
And it goes to Chris, who's lying in the corner, and she's like, "It's my birthday," and they make out. And then we see the vampire in another room, and he's like got this big book, and he's like flipping through the book as he lays on the floor, and I guess he dies.
It was a
And we
big
see
book.
him, like,
I think it was Stephen King's
was a
The
big-
Stand.
oh, you're right, yeah. Oh, it was the illustrated
He
version,
couldn't finish
too.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
The
And that's how the
end.
movie ends. It's just him like laying on the floor with his arms crossed over him.
Wow. A
Yeah.
movie about all these guys trying to have sex with Alyssa Milano. That's basically the movie.
Yep.
And there's some
And I
people
guess-
out there that love this movie. And
Oh,
write
I don't-
about it.
They do transcripts where they record exactly how much of her naughty bits you can see at any given time.
Oh, I like to
will-
say at the end of these shows how this movie is like Star Wars or what it stole from
Well,
Star Wars or
Remember,
the other
Tim,
way around.
it's Star Wars, not Return of the Jedi, so you better not say Force Lightning.
I thought of that.
Yeah, I know you did.
Well, little do people know. There's a lot of scenes they cut out of Star Wars. One of those scenes that was originally filmed was where Obi-Wan Kenobi showed Luke his photo studio with semi-nude photographs he took of Aunt Beru.
Oh, that's rude.
It is. Anyway, that's all I got.
Yep. All right, and I like to counter Tim's excessive mentioning of Star Wars. I like to say what this movie has in common with 1987's fantasy masterpiece, Labyrinth. Labyrinth has there's scenes of Jennifer
Muppets?
Connelly with Muppets. There's scenes of Jennifer Connelly wearing a flowing white dress, and the woman who is the reincarnation, Charlotte's the reincarnation of, also wears a flowing white dress.
Nice.
Yep.
Isn't-
Also
and-
toplessness, boobs everywhere.
In
Both boobs.
Labyrinth, isn't she topless and these little Muppets keep popping up to hide her boobs so you don't see them because it's like a Disney movie? Isn't that what
Tim,
happens? I've heard.
Tim, I think that she might have been a real child when that movie was made. So we better
no.
not. Yeah, you're going to jail.
I never saw that movie.
I know you haven't.
I don't even
It's
know how old
ridiculous.
she was. Okay.
It's ridiculous.
Cut
All
that
right.
out. Hey, Revenge.
One of us will die. One of us
I
will
will
die.
not stand. I will not let Cindy take my place.
Revenge.
I will have my
We made it.
We did.
We made it.
I want to point out, did you notice, Tim, I
We
didn't do a
made it.
list at all?
You didn't do a list at all, and I did like two.
I had no lists. This movie had not a lot to
No.
make lists of.
I tried hard. I punched the wall,
Yeah.
broke my hand.
Oh, no. That's why you're wearing
I
that
called
cast.
up Texar McGillicuddy. He had no jokes for me.
Oh, thank God. Is he dead yet, please?
He doesn't believe in looking at topless women,
Texar McGillicuddy. If you ever hear Tim do a really bad joke, it's because it's written by
105-year-old
105 he's up to.
vaudevillian.
Former vaudeville joke writer, Texar McGillicuddy.
He only knows how to write jokes about women's bare ankles. He's never written a joke about like a bare leg or a bare boob. He can't imagine that.
He doesn't think that they exist.
No. Do you want me to do my story first?
Yeah, you go first.
Start my music. My sequel to Embrace of the Vampire is a bit meta. So it's New Jersey. And you see Tony Danza. And he's exhausted after filming 12 seasons of Who's the Boss.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Did that really run for 12 seasons?
I don't know. That's my number
Okay.
I picked out of my head.
Okay, I'm like, because it could have.
It could have in this universe. And he's
Yeah.
wandering New Jersey to catch up on his favorite thing. You know what his favorite thing is? Horror movies and vampire movies. And he didn't have time to see any of them while filming Who's the Boss. So he's just out catching up on all of them. Catching any vampire movie that shows up, and he's exhausted. He's been running around. He's
Oh, no.
not drinking enough. So
He's not
he
drinking booze?
just water.
Tony Danza's fuel. Oh, okay.
He doesn't read about any of the movie's details because he just wants to see the movie. He doesn't believe in spoilers. Thus, he walks into a theater. It's showing Embrace the Vampire. And he has no idea that Alyssa Milano's in this movie, a girl that he once said in an interview was like his real daughter. He raised on the show, and she's like family. And he sits right down in the front row. It's his favorite seat. It's this crappy theater. Sorry.
Is he seated in between Paul Rubens and...
Oh, no. Who else? Who's the other person in that trio of three?
I forgot the guy's name. I'm blanking on his name right now. He was in The Mighty Wind and stuff.
Oh, he was like a real. He got in trouble. You mean he was in Beetlejuice too? That guy got in trouble.
No, not Jeffrey Jones.
Okay.
No. He played the dad on Modern Family.
Seventh Heaven, I think, or something.
No, what the fuck? Idiot.
For my story, so look up the names of pedophiles.
No, he's not a pedophile. No, he's a
Okay.
beloved comic who got in trouble for masturbating in a movie theater.
And I don't mean to
he
say
was-
Pee-wee's pedophile. You were going on
Yeah.
to Jeffrey Jones. I'm like, where are we going with
No, you went to Jeffrey Jones.
this? Reel it back in.
Hold on, I'm going to find the guy's name. Fred Willard.
Oh, he got in trouble too? I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
Nobody really cared about that one because at that it ruined Pee-wee's career for years. But Fred Willard's like, yeah, who cares at this point?
Oh, jeez.
We know you go to those theaters for it. Cut all this out.
So, of course, 10 minutes into the film, he sees the bare breasts of a girl he felt like was his own daughter. He's
I
like,
hate
oh
this
no.
story already.
Oh no. He's horrified. It's like seeing his own daughter up there half naked, and he wants revenge on whoever did this. So he averts his eyes and tries to get up, but this theater is a particularly dirty theater where they show semi-erotic films all the time, and the film is sticky with soda and other things. Tony can't get up. He's stuck. So he pulls his feet out of his Italian loafers, and he starts running down the aisle, intent on getting this film shut down and getting a revenge on whoever's showing it. But, you know, the floorboards run even because this place is in terrible shape. And he trips, he falls on the floor, and now his pants are stuck to the sticky floor. But he doesn't let that stop him. He jumps up and his pants rip off.
Oh, this is weird.
So he gets...
I don't like this.
But he leaves them behind. He gets to the lobby, looking around for the stairs that take him to the projector room. But there's a bunch of young girls there. They're fans of Taxi. And they're like, Tony Danza, I love you on Taxi. And they grab his shirt, and he doesn't care. He's got to find the person showing this film. He just runs, and they rip his shirt off. So now he's Tony Danza, and he's run up the steps to the projection room wearing only his underpants.
What sort of underpants are they?
Tidy whities, that's it.
Tidy whities? Okay. He looks like he wears tidy whities.
As he turns a corner in the hallway, his underwear catch on the nail sticking out of the wall.
Oh, God, they need to be careful about that.
Rips his underpants right off. So
Oh, man.
he barges into the projection room naked, looking crazy. And unknown to him, when he fell on the floor, some gum kind of stuck to his lower belly. So his penis is stuck in upright position, looking like crabs. He's excited. And the young lady running the projector is mortified that Tony Danza is naked and looking crazy, asking him for that film. So she just...
With an unimpressive looking erection, I imagine.
She shrieks and sprays him with mace. She's used to this. So the police come, they lock him up, and now he's in a New Jersey jail. And another famous New Jersey celebrity heard about this and thought he must have just had a bad day. I'm going to go bail him out.
John Bon Jovi.
So when Tony comes out, after being bailed out, who's standing there to take him home? It's
John Bon Jovi.
Bruce Springsteen.
What? Why would Bruce Springsteen sell himself this way?
And Bruce says, Tony.
Oh, I know what we're doing.
I wanted to ask you, I just wanted to help you out. You must have had a bad night. But I always wanted to ask you this, Tony. Who's really the boss? And Tony Danza cries, and the credits roll. And this movie's called Who's Really the Boss?
Who's really the boss? Now I get why you didn't make the... Yeah, now I get why you didn't make the Bruce Springsteen joke before. I even threw it in, and you ignored it wisely.
I ran it over.
Hold on, I want to give you a slow...
Wow.
That was good.
Thank you.
I feel like also that was like there. If you wrote that down and put it on a fan fiction site,
oh yeah,
you'd get some upvotes. There'd be some people like, oh yeah,
I'll put it on the blog, people.
Now do another one about Bob Saget from
yes.
Just different dads from sitcoms in the 90s and 80s losing all their clothes due to mishaps.
Yes. Now do it for Frasier. Frasier's dad. His clothes get ripped off. He's walking with a walker down the street. Oh, in real life, yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
I liked him. R.I.P.
I did too. All right.
How about your story? Are you just stalling? Are you writing in your head right
play
now?
My music. No, I wrote down one line of my story. You ready? Wait, let me go back.
Oh, play the real. Okay.
What is that music you're playing?
Go ahead.
Oompa Loompa song?
No.
Okay. All right. This movie takes place after this. So the vampire, I guess he dies, or he enters his eternal sleep, whatever. And we're kind of vague where that room is. He's just there. I did notice he went to sleep with candles on, so it probably ends in a fire shortly.
Yeah.
But, Charlotte, she's 18 now. She was raised by nuns, but this is the thing she's been promising. She and Chris, they consummate their relationship.
Really?
Yeah, Chris has been, it's unimpressive. I mean, we could look at Chris and guess this. It takes him moments. It takes her nowhere, to quote David Bowie. But she doesn't really have a healthy relationship to base this on. So she's like, I guess the way that it's the way it is. And, her friend Nicole, who, even though Nicole ended up steaming up like a total creep, Nicole could tell Chris was a real drip. She was trying to get her to meet other people.
Yeah.
But because of all the religious dogma that's been shoved down this woman's throat, not to mention the weird mental manipulation by a vampire, she and Chris just stick together. And this is freshman year of college?
Oh.
Through 4 years, they stick together.
Does she ever find out Nicole is dead?
No, the vampire, it turns out he's pretty good at making stories. His story is Nicole and Eliza ran off together to Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is in the day before the internet really existed, so you could just say that, and she never knew. So, but she'd always did wonder what happened to Nicole. But she just was there. Only person she really had left as a friend was Chris, and Chris, Chris had his group long haired poodle guy and shit. But they stayed together, and Chris, we saw he's a bit of a scumbag. He was kissing on Jennifer Tilly. He definitely cheated on her, and she would kind of keep a blind eye to it, but it didn't really matter. She thought, just like, I know he loves me. He just, he does this. And they graduate. It looks pretty dicey that Chris isn't going to make it a bit, but, he's like, doesn't worry, my grades aren't bad, but my dad's got a job for me at the food factory.
Food factory?
And so they graduate and immediately, the food factory. They make hot dogs.
What do they make there? Okay.
Hot dogs, I said, yeah. And so they, but he really wants to, lock her in. So as soon as they graduate, he marries her, and then he's on the honeymoon, he's just trying to throw a baby in her.
Does he get free hot dogs all the time?
He does, and he just
Okay.
eats hot dogs, and I'm gonna be a little gross.
No, don't do it.
He kind of smells like hot dogs all the
Okay,
time. So
that's okay.
And here's the thing: she's never really he's a very selfish lover. He just wants to. He heaves himself on top of her, finishes his business, and she's maybe she's never had an orgasm.
I don't like where this fan fiction's going.
A couple times Sarah kind of comes onto her, but once after she's consummated, she's like, no, I can't with Chris, and so she just goes through life never being fulfilled, right? And she's got at this point, she has her first kid. And the first kid's okay. I mean, she's a little bit on the spectrum, which you can't really blame. I mean, doesn't mean, but she gets kind of lost in that. It's not. And they have 3 more kids because she's religious and he's trying to keep her in the house. And just time goes by and she never really, her major was art history. She never gets a job in art history. He gets a job at the hot dog factory making hot dogs, coming home smelling like hot dogs. He gets enough money and she doesn't really have, it just goes on. And she's just, she sees middle age approaching. She's getting gray hairs.
Okay.
Yeah, every once in a while she just she kind of fingers at her throat where she used to have the cross or the ankh, and she's like,
do we do
just
that?
Something missing.
Do you do that photography where you watch her age? Just gets whiter hair, like turning into a werewolf? That one from a 1940s movie.
No, it's just her life, Tim.
Okay.
It's just her life, and just they get a Subaru Outback, and she drives the kids to soccer practice and stuff, and it's a good life, but it's
Does she
not
still
a fulfilling life.
listen to Hootie and the Blowfish?
No,
on,
he
get some facts in here.
doesn't let her listen to Hootie and the Blowfish.
Okay.
He thinks that gives her too many uppity ideas.
All right.
He only lets her listen to Amy Grant.
Okay.
He's really letting his figure going. He hangs out with his buddies a lot. He's
At the
definitely at the bar.
Yes, I got blue balls.
Yeah, and he takes it. He fucks Jennifer Tilly and stuff on the side.
What's going on?
He gives her a slight STD. And
Jesus.
it sucks. The kids, it just goes on and on. She finally gets on internet and she's looking up Nicole. She can't find Nicole. She looks up even Eliza. The only person she can find is Milo. Remember Milo?
Okay.
Yeah.
On Facebook.
And so she's like, oh, hey, Milo, what's up? And he's like, oh, and they kind of connect. And it turns out Milo still lives in town. So they agree to have coffee one time.
Does he still like carbonation?
No, he can't handle it because of the incessant burping.
Okay.
Yeah. So they meet and he's like, I'll have some flat soda, and they meet, and she doesn't know how to relate to people, so she kind of tries to kiss him. He's like, you're married, and she just goes through and just her life is just this sad spectacle. And then finally, let's just cut to the end because I see you're squirming. She's
I'm looking for.
Yeah, she's 74 years old, and she one day Chris just he has a heart attack while trying to shit on the toilet. And she finds herself alone, and she's like, I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do anymore. And her youngest daughter, who became a Wiccan, gives her an ankh, and it all comes back to her.
Okay.
And she's like, huh. And you know how we say the best revenge is living
Best
a
served
better.
cold?
Living. No, it's living a good life.
Okay, that's one of them.
Yeah, she lives a terrible life, and she doesn't have revenge, and that's the end.
Wow.
Yeah, it sucks.
There's no joke for that long walk?
Nah, it just sucked.
Bruce Springsteen didn't show up? She didn't go to a Bruce Springsteen concert?
No, Tim, that's your shtick. I wrote my revenge story is Charlotte and Chris have a long, drawn-out, boring marriage. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. I had other stuff to say. It was too dark. Just sucked. That's her life. She should have gone for the vampire. Sometimes stories just go on, and then you just realize a little bit too late you could have gone for the gusto, and you never did.
Got it. The
Seddy Bimco.
That's the story of Seddy Bimco.
That's the story of Seddy Bimco.
Write
Tim,
us.
do we get any mail this week?
Write us at seddybimco@gmail.com.
E at the end.
The E at the end. And follow us on all your socials. except for that old one that's
We're
called...
not on X. We're not on Facebook.
I'm not on Facebook. Yeah, I got a letter.
Let's read the letter.
George O'Connor. Dear Seddy Bimco Coconuts. Seddy Bim Coconuts. It's me, your pal, New York Times bestselling author, and occasional co-host of Seddy Bimco, George O'Connor. I'm writing you as I pause listening at 1 minute, 28 seconds of episode 137 of Seddy Bimco, Hell Comes to Frogtown. I suspect a lot of listeners this week paused around there and laughed a lot. And
Nope, that's
then
not
they
what
kept
I wrote. You fucking pile of shit. Read it correct.
immediately after Tim dropped what is, in my opinion, one of the most amazing jokes. And double.
I'm stepping in. I'm stepping in. This can't be trusted. All right. I am writing to you as I pause listening at 1 minute, 28 seconds of episode 137 of Seddy Bimco, Hell Comes to Frogtown. I suspect a lot of listeners this week paused around this point, never to continue, as this was immediately after Tim dropped what is, in my opinion, the worst example of his age-old questions, which, to jog your memory, was the supermodel and the frog. It was like the Aesop's fable.
Classic.
Yeah. Woof.
Classic.
It's like leaving a big steaming puddle of human diarrhea on the front step of a restaurant. The food inside may be good, but you have to get past this mess to get into it. That's what this joke is to Seddy Bimco. Ugh, George.
This says, P.S. At the 60-minute point in our movie tonight, Embrace the Vampire, you can see 3 inches of Alyssa Milano's buttocks showing as she puts on her shirt.
She's not wearing panties, but previously she had been. Tim, I have to go back to that. What you did, that joke, you did this like supermodel staying in the frog.
It's great.
And then her scorpion fell. Then not only did you, it was such a bad joke. Like co-host Kevin Cablasto, you could see he was rattled. It was so awful. Then, which I couldn't believe, your fucking revenge story was a rehash of the same thing.
No, it's called a callback.
No,
it's
it wasn't a callback. No, that was
stringing to begin.
It's only a callback if anybody listened to the episode, which I don't think anyone got past it.
Just like
I groaned, put it down, and only listened to it an hour later. I was like, I can't. I just can't. That joke was so bad.
It's amazing. It's meta. Well, next week.
Well, next week, what are we doing?
We're going to Mississippi. Yeah, I
hope
I
I
stayed
want
in
some
order.
Mark Twain. Mark Twain.
The pickings are getting thin, and you'd be very happy. There were 2, and one of them I was like, George won't be able to take this. From
nice.
1962, black and white monster.
Suck 'em.
So we're going to 1972, filmed in Mississippi.
Uh-huh.
It's called The Brain Machine,
Oh.
and it's on YouTube. 1972 goodness. I love the film grain. It's going to be hard to see when they film at night. It's going to be hard to hear when they're talking to each other.
Ooh, The Brain Machine. Several people volunteer for a scientific experiment about mind reading and memory, but the experiment goes horribly wrong. I mean,
What could go wrong?
oh my God, Gerald McRaney's in it.
And who is he? Joe.
He was one of Simon and Simon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Did
and he was Major Dad, I think.
He was Major Dad, where he raised a daughter, right?
I think
Major Dad?
that sounds about right.
Yeah, he raised a daughter. She was like a real daughter to him on the set.
Oh,
Major Dad, anyway.
ew. Your story was upsetting.
It was.
Yeah,
All right. Hey, that's it. That's all.
that's it.
That's all we
Hey.
got.
Right into us.
Yeah, or don't. Or join
Or
the
don't.
Discord, or don't. All right.
All right.
Can you say goodbye? Is that it?
Bye.
That's the movie
Bye.
next week. We read our mail. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
This has been a Pity Party Line production.
Party line, it's a party line.
Oh, in real life, yes, he is.
Yes, yes.
I like him. R.I.P.
I did too. Yeah. My wife's been watching Frasier occasionally, and so I've caught a few episodes. I'm like, that's a good show.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't care for Daphne.
Because she's British. I get it.